You know what's as good as buying fragrances? Selling fragrances! I'm James from the best smelling channel on YouTube, J-ROYL. I do videos all about fragrances, mainly for men, but ladies, I got a few ladylike perfumes that I wear. But if any of that sounds like something you'd like to watch on a regular basis, then subscribe if you haven't. Do yourself a favor, it's not even for me. A lot of you guys watching seem to be very curious about how many fragrances I own, what's my collection like. I tried making that video a few times in the past and it ended up being way too long for its own good. So what I have decided to do is start up a series kind of related to my collection, but more so the current state of my collection, in a segment I like to call What Survived the Downsize. Downsizing, when it comes to fragrance collections, simply means a reduction in your collection. But my collection reduction is similar to a reduction sauce. You take a balsamic vinegar and then you heat it up, reducing it down to a smaller quantity, but of a stronger, sweeter, more potent version of its former self. And that's how I feel my collection has become. It's smaller, but mightier. I've sort of trimmed the fat, sold most of the fragrances that I just wasn't wearing a ton. Today's episode of What Survived the Downsize is the Chanel Allure Homme line. So at one point, when my collection was perhaps at its largest, I had Allure Homme, Allure Homme Sport, Allure Homme Edition Blanche, Allure Homme Eau Extrême, and Allure Homme Cologne Sport. But now I only have 3. So before we get into these fragrances, I want you guys to comment below on which 3 fragrances you think I kept. Knowing me, knowing my style of collecting, knowing my nose, which ones do you think I held on to? The way this video is gonna work is I'm gonna reveal the ones I kept one by one, which will then reveal which ones I got rid of and why. The first Chanel Allure Homme fragrance that survived the downsize is, no surprise to you guys, Allure Homme Edition Blanche. This one had to stay simply because of how different it is from the other fragrances in the line. Its main notes are lemon and vanilla, and it has this really creamy citrus feel that is unique among the rest of the Allure Hommes out there, and pretty unique in regards to fragrances in general. I wear this one a lot, pretty much year round, even though it is a pretty summery fragrance. One of the few fragrances in my collection that I paid full retail price for as well, because these don't really go on discount very often, if ever. Some people do say that the old formulation is different from the new one, but I've tried both. They're quite similar, so not a thing. I'm not holding on to this version because it's the old formulation. It's a newer formulation, but it's still awesome. So if you've guessed that this survived the downsize, give yourself a pat on the back. You deserve it, only kinda, because I've talked about this pretty recently in my videos, so that was an easy one. The next Allure Homme fragrance that survived the downsize is Allure Homme Sport Eau Extrême. Ooh. This is quite possibly the most popular fragrance flanker in the entire line, but it's not one that I necessarily talk about a whole lot. Not because I don't like it, because I do, spoiler alert. It's just one of these colognes that it already gets talked about enough. It has enough hype. It doesn't need J-ROYL's hype, but I wear it quite often when I want something a little on the sweeter side, maybe for the evenings, maybe the slightly cooler weather, you know. I got a Edition Blanche when it's hotter. When it's colder, this one's good too. You can wear these whenever you want, really. Why not? You bought them and paid a lot of money for them, so why wait until like 2 months out of the year for its optimal usage? Just wear it whenever, it's fine. This one is a lot closer to the original Allure Homme Sport when compared to Edition Blanche. It borrows a lot from that fragrance, but like I said, less about the citrus, more about that sweet, slightly musky quality that gives it its unique flair. All right, so we're down to the last fragrance that survived the downsize. If you've been keeping tabs, we have Allure Homme, Allure Homme Sport, and Allure Homme Cologne Sport. Or just Cologne, whatever version you have. Now, if you haven't already, guys, place your bets in the comments. I'll be waiting. What is the final fragrance that survived the downsize, which will determine which ones I sold? The last Allure Homme fragrance to survive is Allure Homme Sport Cologne. Ooh. in a completely transparent bottle. I didn't keep it for that reason alone. It's the only clear bottle in the line, but what I love about this one is it replaces 2 fragrances. It has the fresh aspect of the original Allure Homme Sport, but it also smells quite a bit like Dior Homme Cologne with its citrus element. So by keeping this, I could get rid of the other 2, and then the sweet aspect of Allure Homme Sport that I missed, I get from Eau Extreme now. Or I can even borrow my dad's bottle of Versace for Homme. This one is such an easy wear, and it has that slight spicy deviation that makes it different from Dior Homme Cologne. So it's even more interesting to me. So together, we have the fresh and the sweet aspect of Allure Homme Sport, and then we have something completely different, a bit of a wild card. 3 different vibes, 3 different unique sort of feels, which meant that the original Allure Homme Sport, as much as I love it, I don't need it anymore. If I didn't have these, maybe I would just get that one because it's kind of a mix, but I do have these. So as for the original Allure Homme, if any super fans are watching, I apologize that I don't really care.
Oh,
Sorry.
hell no.
It's a fragrance that I didn't really grow up wearing. So I think a lot of people that still wear it have that nostalgia attached to it and those scent memories. I don't have those. So it's never a fragrance that reminds me of my younger days. I just take it for face value, what it is right now. And it doesn't smell all that unique to me at this point. So even though I try to wear it many times, I had a bottle of it for a while, I always felt underwhelmed when I put it on. So I sold it. Unfortunately, it just didn't survive the downsize. And neither did Allure Homme Sport. Doesn't mean I hate these other fragrances and doesn't mean these are better fragrances. It's just how my collection has ended up, okay? Next time we're going to be looking at the Dior Homme fragrances. Another fragrance line that I had in completion. I had them all. I don't have them all anymore. So if you want a bit of a catch up on all the Dior Homme fragrances that I have, I made some Dior Homme videos right here for your viewing pleasure. Subscribe if you haven't, and share it with your stinky friends so they can learn to smell a lot better than they do now. Like the video if you liked it. Don't do anything else if you didn't. See you on the next video, man. Bye.